People do not realize that money has probably one of the number one factors in not only mental, in like relationships. So like divorce, number one cause, money.
The social media world and what we put out and everything. I don't put everything out on social media. It seems like I do, but I don't. But I try to put the hard stuff on there too, because that's what's going to connect with people is when you're vulnerable and you're putting that stuff out there. I talk about numbers and how funny it is, especially being in the real estate space, because numbers never lie, but they can lie.
Hey guys, and welcome back to another episode of Financial Mastery Simplified. I am your host, Jacqueline or Jax Kreider. And today we have Miss Heather Sunshine Haase with us here. And she is a really good friend. She also is in the real estate mortgage kind of space. We're not necessarily going to talk about that today, but we are kind of in the same space. So welcome, Heather. Tell everybody a little bit about yourself and why you're excited to be on the show today.
Thank you so much. Again, I'm Heather Sunshine. I always tell people, I'm like, you call me Heather or you call me Sunshine. I will answer to both. I'm from Dayton, Ohio. I'm a realtor out here, but I'm also an educator and I go around the country and I speak on all sorts of things like social media, marketing, a lot of inspirational kind of stuff. I've gotten into the ethics sort of things, but that's been my wheelhouse for a bit. And I forgot what the other question.
Oh no, I just said, what are you excited about? Like, why are you excited about being on the show, etc.?
I'm just excited because I shared a story last week and Jacqueline was like, I want you on my podcast because this is exactly the kind of story that resonates with people and stuff, because I kind of, I talk about like shame and stuff and the shame that we hold. And I started talking about shame with money, which is such a big thing. I had people messaging me like, oh my gosh, like, how did you do this? And I'm like, listen, you didn't read my post. I'm still trying to figure this ish out. Like basically, like I'm figuring out day by day, just making the connections and stuff and just trying to be better. Like my goal is always to try to be 1% better every single day. So, and sometimes that's my financial house. Sometimes that's my wellness house. I don't know. Like sometimes it's all the houses if I'm feeling very spicy that day, but to be on and share my perspective and story, because that'll probably resonate with somebody.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and I mean, the thing that I will say is that just like you said, so one of the things you said, guys, in our post is that people are not really talking about money. Like we talk about all kinds of other things. We've gotten better about talking like mental health, which kind of avoided and stuff around that one for a while there. But now it's like, money. People talk about it in positive ways, right? Like if they have a lot of it or if everything is going super well, if they've hit massive success. But what about everything else, right? Like what about when things aren't going necessarily super well? What about the ugly little bits that people are just not sharing about? And so, first of all, I applaud you for putting yourself out there because that's me too. I'm just not afraid to be who I am, I guess. But it's hard because people just don't understand that everybody is struggling with some version of this, right? Their own version of this behind the scenes. But nobody's really having the huevos, if you will, to step up and say, hey, here's what I've been going through. Like, here's how I got to where I'm at, right? And the truth is that we're all struggling with that. I don't care how much financial education you had growing up. I don't care how great of a family or if you came from money, if you didn't come from money, it doesn't matter. Like we're all having some version of this. It's just each of us is unique and has our own story. So I guess tell us a little bit about your story and kind of what brought us here.
I was just gonna make a comment real quick. I will comment on that, but like it's crazy because I was talking about shame and I talk about a lot in the mental health space and everything like that. But like a lot of when people take their own, lives and stuff like that, especially men, it's all because of the financial things because they don't know how to talk about it. And they feel that like shame, like heavy on them and everything. And it's really kind of sad. And I don't think that's the way it should be. I think we should be having these spaces to be able to talk to people. I know there's financial advisors out there, but they're not always attainable to people. Like, and a lot of people don't even know how to start with that. Like, and it's okay. Like, it's okay. I've messed up on my taxes before and it's okay. I everything's figure outable.
Yes. Oh, that's incredibly true. Well, and people, you were talking about the mental piece. People do not realize that money has probably one of the number one factors in not only mental, in like relationships. So like divorce, number one cause, money. Challenging between like family members, right? Somebody passes away or whatever, money. right? Why are siblings fighting? Oh, because, somebody wants something. It's all monetary based. A lot of times people not realizing that finances touch way, way more than people ever give it credit
Yeah. Yeah. There's such a mental hole. We give money way too much power,
for. 100%.
like mentally. It's way too much power. But I mean, it's hard too. Like it messes with our egos so much.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and then also we live in the day of social media where everyone's life looks perfect and we see all the good things like somebody going on vacation and somebody buying a brand new house and somebody,
Mhm.
this or that or whatever. Cause right, like that's what they're celebrating on Facebook. And then they're not seeing that the trip that that person went on put them $10,000 into credit card debt, which is going to choke them, heavy over the next 12 to 15 months or whatever it is, right? Like that's what we're not seeing.
It's insane. Like that's something I talk about a lot is like the social media world and what we put out and everything. I don't put everything out on social media. It seems like I do, but I don't. But I try to put the hard stuff on there too because that's what's going to connect with people is when you're vulnerable and you're putting that stuff out there. I talk about numbers and how funny it is, especially being in the real estate space, because numbers never lie, but they can lie. Take a statistics class. So my best example is I can say 95% of all the business I get is referrals from all over the country. And most people will be like, your eyebrows raised. Like, you're like, yeah, like, that's awesome. Like, you're thinking that's awesome. And then you only know I only do 4 deals a year.
Right.
Like, that's
So
one
this
of the
is the
things
math,
are
not as the
even.
truth. But when you look at what's behind that math of like what's creating the
Mhm.
truth, it's maybe not as
Yeah.
pretty as you think. Yeah, of course.
Yeah, like I can take all our like rankings and stuff like that, and I can make those numbers work in people's favors, like if I really want to. And there's truth behind those numbers, but you can play with those numbers too, like the way you want to. And it's crazy. Are you even see like those fake awards that we get? I don't want to say they're fake; they're real awards, but like when home snap around was around, like you would see that everywhere, like top 1% of these agents and stuff like that, and then you saw like 700 of your friends were in the top 1%, like
And you're like,
so.
I don't think that's reasonable.
But I also told people because like people would make fun of people like that, and I'm like, well, their consumers don't know that, like it's just something to brag about, like something that makes them feel good, like so that's okay too. But numbers are just funny. They're just funny. And I've already forgot the other question you asked me.
No, I ask you like tell us a little bit about your story, like how you sort of like why I guess maybe you had a little bit of shame around money, and then like kind of what got you to the point where you felt like okay, I got to start talking about some of this and start sharing some of this, etc.
So my story obviously has had its ups and downs and stuff like that. I grew up in kind of a low income situation. Not necessarily, it was like low middle class. Like both my parents had to work. And they worked very like sometimes multiple jobs, sometimes long jobs and stuff like that. And I lived with my grandma a lot, and my grandma was awesome. But she definitely put herself into a lot of credit card debt and everything. She thought like you could just get a credit card and pay for it and everything. So money was never really taught in my schools. Like I went to inner city schools. It was never really taught there. It was never really taught by my parents. Like they tried, but they didn't understand it themselves because they weren't taught. Like, and it was never really taught by my grandma or anything like that. Like, and my grandma did fairly well for herself, and my grandparents both did, but at the same time, there were still struggles there. And I saw my parents struggling a lot. And, we had that conversation about one of the one reasons for divorce. There was a lot of arguments
Yeah.
over money. And so that's kind of the environment I grew up with was I just don't know how to manage it. I don't know what to do with it. I don't know where to put it away and everything. I still live paycheck to paycheck occasionally. I was doing really well there for a while until, unfortunately, this most recent economy has kind of hit me hard. And now I'm like, again, like struggling to pay stuff down, and I'm trying to. I was definitely, I don't want to say living outside my means, but I was making my means fit my paycheck.
Right.
Instead, like I'm like, oh, I have more money, which means I could spend more money. And that's not always necessarily good. And that's a hard lesson I'm learning right now as I'm trying to pay some of these bills down. But just for the listeners, viewers of this, I posted on my Facebook last week that I paid one of my bills off. It was
Yeah.
a silly, silly bill that I had to that I took out. It was like called a quick cash loan through my bank. It was a credit union, so it wasn't like crazy interest or anything like that.
Which is a blessing.
And although I do have a crazy interest story, but it was just something, and it was like $2,000 maybe when I first got it. And it took me almost a year and a half to pay it off because I've been paying the minimum, like as much as I can.
Yep.
And then finally I got it under $300 and I'm like, I'm just making this go away. This will save me $100. And then I will roll that $100 and do the snowball and do the next loan. So I have one more loan there to pay off. And then I have a credit card to pay off. And eventually I'm chipping away at this and trying to pay all sorts of things, but it's hard. And I put that out there and I had so many people comment like, oh my gosh, I struggle with money too, or messaging me like, oh my gosh, how do I do this? Like, and I'm like, I am not the expert. Read again.
Yeah, but you know what?
I am not the
You're
expert.
trying. And a lot of people, I mean, that's the other thing is that it's hard. It's hard to even want to try, right? Like it's way easier when things are going wrong to just like get back in bed and pull the cover up over your head and say, to heck with this. Like, I don't want to deal with it. That's a tomorrow issue or whatever. And so it's a delicate balance, right? Of like not letting it drown you in your mental headspace, but also handling it, right? Being proactive, figuring out and getting that point and being like, okay, yeah, I made this decision. Maybe it wasn't necessarily the best one, but it is what it is. How do I now move forward? And honestly, that is the biggest advice and things that I tell people all the time from the financial aspect is like, look, you truly are more powerful than you know. You can make a decision. You can make any choice. You can change your life hugely. But yeah, you have to just take the step, right? And it won't necessarily be the perfect step. Like you said, right? Like you kind of knew better, but you kind of got it yourself into a little more depth that you wanted to. Like, yeah, okay, well, welcome to life, right? Like, again, I talk all the time and I tell people all the time, even though I was blessed enough to have a fair bit of financial education like early on, right? That didn't necessarily resonate with me, but okay, like here's the rules. I still don't do it perfectly. You and I were talking before the show started about how we're both ADHD and impulse control is a real thing. For those of you who don't have ADHD, lucky you, which is why 800,000 purple cups. And I talk about them all the time. I know, whatever.
Like, look at this. Like, this is all like ADHD vibes. You should see like outside.
I know. Well, I always talk.
You know, since we are talking candidly about, I'm that way with coffee cups. I have over 60 unique coffee cups, like that are weird shaped or fun shaped. Like I have one sitting right here. It's in the shape of one of those like vintage Christmas trees. I just got Hobby Lobby. Like, you know, I'm sitting here talking about money, and at the same time, I'm like, impulse buy. I just spent $150 to decorate my office for Christmas. Like,
I was going to say, but that's everybody. And that's part of what people don't realize or recognize is that even if you know all the rules, even if you're not following like the traditional rules, but you're following your own rules, you still are not going to do it perfectly. And there's still, because it's money related, there's still going to be some shame there. Like, I don't know how many times people, anybody who's listening to this have bought something and then like 3 days later, they're like, oh, why did I buy that? Like, what was I thinking? I don't know why I did that. But the truth is that sometimes you just have to forgive yourself and move down the path. Like, there's just nothing.
Stay tuned. We'll be back right after this message from our sponsors.
Imagine having the power to control your financial destiny, no matter where you start. Welcome to the Financial Mastery Simplified course and resource platform, where financial education is tailored to your unique journey. We cover everything you need, from basic budgeting and saving strategies to advanced investing and retirement planning. Learn at your own pace with lessons that match your level of experience. Whether you're a beginner or looking to enhance your financial knowledge, join our community of learners and benefit from shared insights and expert guidance. The Financial Mastery Simplified course and resource platform equips you with the skills and confidence to take charge of your financial future. Ready to master your finances? Enroll in our courses today at the Financial Mastery Simplified course and resource platform. Start your path to financial independence now.
Hello and welcome to PBJ Mortgage, where your home ownership dreams become reality. Today, we want to share why choosing PBJ Mortgage is the right choice for your home financing needs. At PBJ Mortgage, we're built on a foundation of values that drive us every day. Our commitment to educate, empathize, and empower our clients sets us apart in the mortgage industry. Our clients are at the heart of everything we do, and their success stories speak volumes. With years of experience, our team possesses in-depth knowledge of the mortgage programs, ensuring you receive expert guidance and the best possible rates. We offer a diverse range of loan options to suit your unique needs, including conventional, FHA, VA, and more. No matter your situation, we've got a solution. At PBJ Mortgage, we pride ourselves on providing personalized service. Our dedicated loan officers are here to guide you every step of the way, making the process as smooth as making a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. We understand that time is of the essence, which is why we've streamlined our processes for efficiency and convenience. Transparency and clear communication are paramount. You'll always know where you stand throughout your mortgage journey. Reach out to us today to set up a call to discover your options. If you're ready to make your home ownership dreams a reality, contact PBJ Mortgage today. Let us empower you during this exciting journey. Phone number 4693733 107 www.pbjteam.com. Visit our website or give us a call to get started. We look forward to helping you secure your future home. PBJ Mortgage, where home begins.
Thanks for your patience. Now back to our conversation.
Well, it's super funny. Do you remember years ago? I think this was 4 years ago, 5 years ago, Marie Kondo, like she did that, like finding joy, like to declutter your house and stuff like that. That doesn't work with people with ADHD, I found. Like it did work a little bit. Like I held each item. Does this item bring me joy? Guess what? 98% of the time, it still brings me joy in some sort of way. And that does not make my items go away. Like, I buy fun stuff. Like, if
I
you
know,
saw,
and
like,
yeah,
behind me.
I feel that because that is so true. Like, yeah, you're like, I bought it because I loved it and it was awesome. And I still love it. And it's still awesome.
It's so funny because we've met once. And what I remember most about you is your peanut butter and jelly sandwich purse.
Like, that's ridiculous. Like, I don't even wear it very often, but it's amazing that I own it. The fact that, like, and you're going to laugh. You know how I bought that purse is I saw it somehow. I don't remember where. And it was a Betsy Johnson bag that didn't even, like, it wasn't even for sale anymore on a regular retail website. So then I had to go hunting for it, which, by the way, for somebody who's ADHD was even better. I was like, ooh, it's like a game. Can I find peanut butter and jelly purse? Like, you know what I mean? So a lot of times people just don't realize that, especially if you're struggling with additional layers of complication like ADD, ADHD, right? Like maybe you have some other kind of like anxiety or depression. Like my depression sometimes will make me buy because I'll be feeling sad and I'll be feeling like bad about myself. And so I'm like, I need something like to make myself feel better about myself, right? I do not really need something pretty, but I sure do tell myself I need something pretty so that I can purchase it or whatever. And then again, it's like this whole cycle, right? Like buy the thing, you didn't really need the thing, you caused yourself some debt or whatever, and now you have shame. And like, here we go in a loop.
Currently, I'm looking at 2 tabs on my thing of stuff I want to buy, especially pretty dresses because it's Black Friday. And like, so sometimes that's my talk to myself, like, okay, what did I do to deserve this? Like, to actually deserve this? Like, is this, can I afford this? Can I do this? Or like, even like I was having breakfast with a friend this morning and I was telling her, because I don't get my nails done often, but like I got them done for my brother's wedding, which somebody else paid for them. But then it put me in the cycle of getting my nails done. I'm not sure if you've ever gotten your nails done, but it's nice. And so my next round, I got them done because I didn't want them to look weird as I was going on a 10-day business trip. So I got them done again. And then I got them done last month because I saw a pretty design that I wanted. And now I'm going to do them one more time. And I'm like, I have to. And I told her, I'm like, I have to stop after Christmas, like, and like, just be done with them. And she's like, no, just go sell another house. And I'm like, you make it sound so ezy.
You're like, I wish it was that simple. I wish it was like, they fell off the truck and we're like, hey, here we go. Like, we're good.
And that's probably a problem of mine too. Like, because I have a big abundance mindset. Like I'm not like super scarcity mindset or anything like that. And so I have that mindset of there will always be more and everything's figure outable and I'll figure it out. So sometimes it's a battle. And it's so funny because like the bring me joy thing, like the Marie Kondo thing, there was a meme going around that was like, stop saying if it brings you joy, if you're ADHD, just ask if there was dog poo on this, would I throw this away? Like, that works for me. That works for me. Like, if there was something really weird about this, what would I do with it? Like, kind of thing. And
That's
so,
unfortunate.
that's helped a little bit more with my decluttering and my stuff, and my impulse buying and everything. And there's also even like, if I'm trying on clothes at a store or something, if it's not a hell yes, then it's a
Oh
no.
yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
like it has to be. Like, I'm not going to buy
My
it
little trick
to fill
for
my
people
closet.
when they're buying stuff, like, because I buy a lot of things online, is that I will fake shop, aka like I'll add all the things to my cart and then I like leave it there for like days, and then I go back and I revisit it and I decide, is it something that I added because I just was like, ooh, yay, shiny object, or did I actually add it because I actually like wanted it, needed it, right? So then I start asking myself like a series of questions, and I feel like that works for a lot of people more than they would realize, is just like sitting down and sort
Yeah.
of asking themselves questions. Like I talk a lot about being intentional with wherever it is you're going. And I'm not saying that it has to be so structured or so intentional that you can't have any fun or you suck all the joy out of life. Don't misunderstand me. But on the same token, like I try to have some specific rules that I kind of follow for myself, right? Maybe they don't work for everybody, and
Yeah.
that's okay. But it just helps me sort of figure out, you know what I mean? Like how that.
Yeah. There's an app that I used for a long time and I probably should go back to using it. But like when I had, so like with real estate, you don't get paid on the regular.
Yeah,
Like
for
it's
sure.
hit or miss. But I was also a professional development person. I was getting a salary. So like when I did that, like, but it was also during a good time. Like, so I was doing really, really well for myself. And that's when I started accruing more
Sure.
like bills because I was spending more and such. And so, but there was this app I had, and I speak so highly of the app, which it was called Truebill. Now it's called
Okay.
Rocket Money. And I pay $7 a month for it. And what it does is I set up little savings plans and it takes it out of my bank account, whether I have a goal to save up for or I just want to create a general
Sure.
savings account. And I was doing so well with that. And the reason I like it a lot, sorry, is you can't get an instant transfer back to
Right.
your account if you need it. And that helps out a lot with ADHD. Because if I'm all of a sudden like, I need this money, I'm going to have to wait 2 to 3 days to get it.
Oh,
And by then, sometimes that serotonin blast has passed and everything. But like, it was really great, especially like, you know, I'm assuming you have a lot of people in the real estate space that listen to this, but realtors often like to complain about their dues and everything. And I'm like, it's not a surprise. It comes around every year. And it really, at the end of the day, like you look at some other businesses like that have very high like payments and stuff like that. Like try to open a coffee shop. It's going to cost you a minimum of 25,000 minimum. Most likely it's going to cost you between 50 to 100,000. And that's still considered cheap. Like, but like we pay somewhere between 600 to 1,000 minimum for, you know, dues a year. I created a little savings account for that and I just took out of it every month and then I paid it by the end of the year. And it wasn't as much of a shock for me, but I guarantee here in a month or less than a month, it'll come out in a week. People are going to start complaining again and they're going to be like, well, what am I paying for and such? And I'm like, well, there's all these really cool tools if you go look for it, but nobody looks for it. And then there's some associations that aren't necessarily always worth the money and such, but they need to speak up about that and figure that out. But yeah, like it's interesting like to try to plan ahead with those, but that's one of my favorite little tricks is that Rocket Money app. I really did love that at the time. I'm nervous now to turn it back on just because I don't always have a regular paycheck anymore. Like I'm back to all commission based and I'm like, it's going to take money out of my account when I don't want it to.
Yeah. Sometimes though you have to do kind of hard things like that. I mean, I actually recommend a lot of people, not necessarily the Rocket Money app, but like I recommend that people create a savings account that you can get the money it back to you instantly, whether it be an online account, whether it be like basically make it harder for you to be able to access the money. Because that then
Yeah.
will tell you if it's something that you really need or if it was just something that, hey, shiny object, this fun thing came across. I really wanted it. I bought it and, whatever. I also try for myself to give myself a little bit of a buffer. Like I have an account that is sort of the spend money account, and I have money that flows into that account, and I know if there's like a thing I want to buy, right? Whether it's $500 or $5,000, I have that account that I'm allowed to play out of. And my husband and I actually both have these accounts, and so like he uses his because he likes to play poker and like do some gambling and things like that. That's that account. And then I'm usually using mine for shopping because that's my ale, right? I have lots of shopping fun. And so, yeah, so I think that a lot of times people don't realize or recognize how important it is when they are setting up whatever their goals are so that they are not dealing with maybe shame surrounding money or feeling guilty. A lot of times it's literally just being smart about yourself some buffer,
Yeah.
whatever that looks like, right? Whether it's you use an app like Rocket Money, whether you do it yourself, it doesn't really matter. It's just, but you do have to give yourself some buffer because otherwise then you do end up in a position where it makes it really hard and you end up having and if you're in a position like you and I, which is challenging because we're not paid regularly, right? Like it's feast or famine seems like in our spaces, and it's definitely not for the faint of heart. Then you have to be really diligent to think about money more than you'd like sometimes to make sure that all your
I've had this discussion. I was actually having this discussion with somebody this morning that I feel there needs to be a business management class as a part of your pre-licensing, and like business financials and stuff like that. And then I remember telling that idea to somebody and they're like, yeah, you're never going to get any government entity to do that. They want to make
100%.
money. Like, and I'm just
I think a
like,
lot of the information is
like, I think that's why they don't teach you about real estate in real estate school.
Stay tuned. We'll be back right after this message from our sponsors.
Welcome to Financial Mastery Simplified, your go-to podcast for making smart money decisions. We break down complex financial topics into easy-to-understand advice you can use every day. Our experts cover everything from budgeting and saving to investing and retirement planning. We give you the tools to take control of your money and build the future you want. With Financial Mastery Simplified, you'll feel informed and empowered to make the best choices for your financial health. Tune in to Financial Mastery Simplified on your favorite podcast platform. Start your journey to financial confidence today. Welcome to Haase, where we believe in the power of education. At Haase, we're more than just a brand. We're your partner in home ownership, dedicated to educating, equipping, and empowering you every step of the way. Education is at the heart of everything we do. We offer comprehensive resources designed to make home ownership simple and accessible for all. From understanding mortgage options to mastering home maintenance, Haase provides the knowledge you need to make informed decisions with confidence. We host workshops and seminars, bringing together experts and community members to share insights and build a stronger, more informed community. Because when you're educated, you're empowered. Haase, home ownership made simple for all. Visit our website or contact us today to start your journey with Haase. Empower yourself with knowledge and embrace the joy of home ownership.
Thanks for your patience. Now back to our conversation.
honestly, a lot of the information is gatekept from everybody because, number one, let me just be real here. Financial institutions make a crap ton of money off of you. Okay, so like people think that it's actually like the loan officer or the person that you're actually dealing with directly. No, it's not that person. It's all the people in the back end. Like they're making a crap ton of money. I mean, literally, I just wrote a book called Mortgage 101, The Secret Sauce to Home Buying. And one of the things I talk a little bit about is the fact that like, okay, here's like some gimmicky things that people promote. And why do they promote those things? Well, because it's good for the back end investor. Like that's who's making the money. So like, you're going to think that like what's advertised to you, which is like the lowest interest rate, that is the best thing for you. Well, not necessarily. And like, we need to do the math to see if that actually makes sense for you. But because it's what's been programmed into your brain, like hits you like this over and over and over again, that is what you're going to think. Like you're going to think like, oh, this is the end all. Like I need the lowest interest rate. And it's on its face, it's way easier to understand. So of course, that's what they're going to teach you and tell you.
Yeah.
But the truth is, there is a lot of like there's a lot of things out there that you really just need to think through. It's like you can use credit cards to your advantage, but they also can come up and bite you. It's like the 0% thing. 0% is a great option, right? Like to be able to handle that. But if you're not planning to pay it off, like for sure within that 12-month period, if you do not have a very structured plan, it will come back and it will bite you so hard and you will have to pay so much additional money. It's crazy.
I just had something like, because I'm being as honest as I possibly can. So I had one of those freak out moments and I applied for a credit card and I got it, but I didn't activate it. Like once I got it, I'm like, you know what? No, I'm good. Like,
Sure.
I'm not going to do anything. Guess what? They still charge me. They still charge me like and I'm like, I haven't spent a cent on this credit card and they have killed my credit score. They have and I'm just like, I work so hard. And that's what bugs me a lot too, is like credit scores. I'm like, you work so hard to get it up and it takes years. And then one little ding, even if you correct it, will like knock you back down. And I'm just like, oh, like I'm calling this bank and I'm just like, I haven't even activated the card. How are you going to charge me like this certain things? And I had even something a couple of weeks ago because I had I had checks that I was expecting to come in and they were delayed and I was about to go on a trip and I'm like, what am I going to do? Like, how am I going to pay for this? So I went for one of those. I was going to go for one of those quick loan places again because I'm like, well, as soon as I get it, I'll just pay it off and stuff. And it was so crazy, like, because this is one where it was really like a quick day cash kind of thing. And they're just like, oh yeah, we'll lend you up to $900. And I'm like, sweet, what's the payment plan like on that? And they're like, oh, it's a 600% interest rate.
Oh yeah.
Like they wanted to charge me $3,000 to borrow 900. And I'm like, no. I'm like, I could pay this off in like a week. Like I just needed it as a quick thing, so I figured it out.
Well, I was gonna say, and that's the whole point. They a lot of times do not expect you to read the fine print. They're hoping really hard that you're not. And the reason that even though he's not my favorite guy, that like Dave Ramsey and people like that speak so negatively in respect to credit cards, because it's really a legalized loan shark. Now, I'm not a proponent of believing that credit cards are from the devil. I think they can be good tools. The challenge is you have to understand them. You have to understand how they operate. And then you also have to know how to effectively manage them and handle them, right? I read a really interesting article. It was a while back, but how the fact that we all utilize pretty much credit cards only has diminished the amount of money that's actually going back into the business owner's hands, and how basically it's making all the financial corporations like wealthy beyond belief. You have to remember, like, you charge something, even if it's on your debit card, your credit card, like it doesn't matter. Then there's a 3% fee that's getting paid. You know what I mean? Like to the merchant, like there's all of these like little things. And so like then when you look at the percentage of what's actually, hitting, and that's why some businesses have gone to damn near all cash. Like they want that because it's negatively affecting them. And so there's just so many things that like, it's not necessarily that what you're doing is wrong. You just have to really step back and ask yourself hard questions. I mean, part of the reason I created the podcast to begin with is to try to uncover some of these things and like just sort of let you know about them. Because you know what? If like if you have a dire situation where you have to have the $900 and there's nowhere else you can get it from, you can't borrow it from a friend for a couple of days, you can't, whatever it is, right? Fill in the blank. Then okay, you might have to do that, and it totally sucks. And it's 600% interest. It's going to cost you a freaking fortune, right? But if you use it as a really expensive lesson, and hey, we're not going to handle that again that way or whatever, and here's the things we're going to put in place to try to, make sure this doesn't happen again. That's one thing. If it's like, oh, that's always a solution, that creates a huge problem. Like I have a friend who she and I knew each other a long time ago, and every time her rent payment came due, and let's be real, that's not like a surprise, right? It's not like it's a surprise when rent comes due, okay?
Or association dues are due or anything like
every
that.
Every single time, she would withdraw money out of her account and overdraw her account every single month to pay rent. And then she would have somewhere between $100 and $300 in overdraft fees that she would pay every single month. which if she had just done a better job, like planning, then all that extra money would have been for her, right? Like that's something that would have been for her or whatever.
Yeah.
But that's why I tell people all the time, I'm like, look, there's not necessarily a right or wrong way, but you have to ask yourself if it's a continual problem, then okay, like how do we shift it? Like what questions do we ask ourselves? What resources do we get in place? Like it doesn't matter to me like how you want to handle that because it's your life and it's your money. But I don't like having to pay fees and interest and all this other crap if I don't have to, right? How do I fix it? I make sure. But I mean, I appreciate your honesty because trust me, we have some like really high, and it's been a really rough couple of years for us. And like we have some really high credit card stuff, and my credit looks like absolute trash right now. And we've dealt with some collector stuff or whatever, which by the way, stay tuned for episodes coming up where I'm going to talk to you exactly about the collectors because what they do, a lot of them is highly illegal. How do I know? Because I went to law school and I know what the laws are, and they try to pull some shady stuff when they are trying to get that money from you, number one. And then number two, a lot of times people don't realize like how that all works on the back end. Like what happens when I pay, right? Like what does that look like? And a lot of it is state dependent, but there's a lot of things that people don't know. And so stay tuned because I'm myself personally going through it. And I may or may not have a whole bunch of the recordings of these people trying to tell me a bunch of crap that is utter BS.
So how I started talking about money wasn't even that Facebook post last year. It was last week. It was another Facebook post I made last year because I had a credit system. I went to a school for a little bit and then I decided not to proceed with the school the following semester. Well, they still charged me. They still charged like FAFSA and stuff. And I'm like, no, I wasn't even living there. Like, but again, like there's this, like, it makes me shut down. And I'm just like, if I ignore it, it will go away. Like kind of thing. And like I was 20. Like I didn't know how to deal with lawyers. I didn't know how to deal with certain things. Well, they sent this all the way to like lawyers and stuff. And I'm just like, I didn't go. Like, here's the proof. I didn't go. Like, what are you talking about? And they're like, well, it's too late. It's too late. They ended up putting, so what happened to me last year when I said like I had issues with my account, they ended up putting a lien on my bank account and took all the money I had on my bank account out. That's all of it. And I had a check coming in a few days. So like I had to think fast on my feet with that and everything. But yeah, like they took every single cent and they took money out of my daughter's account because I was a co-signer.
Yeah. Because technically she can't really own the account yet, even though it's her account. She can't, anybody who's under the age of 18 can't legally like own stuff like that. There's like some very specific legal rules. Well, yeah, law school education was, it was very eye-opening. What you really realize when you go to law school is one, anybody can sue you for pretty much any reason. And then two, there are so many rules and laws in place that are broken constantly, especially in the financial space. The law that governs credit is called FACRA, Fair Credit Reporting Act. And FACRA gets broken regularly because the people that they hire usually to do the low level like collections, recording, all those kind of things. What people don't realize is that even though, yes, they go through like training, a lot of times they really, because they're incentivized with commission to get the account settled, they don't understand on how the back end works. And so they basically will say whatever they have to say. I'm not recognizing or realizing that there's a lot of people who are smart enough to fight back and say, hey, you're not allowed to say that. Like, you're not allowed to do some of those things. Like, for instance, they have my business line. They're not allowed to do that, which my operations manager has let them know that they're not allowed to do that. But do handle it and do it anyways? Yeah, absolutely. Because they want to be able to try to collect whatever they want to collect.
It's going to be interesting. I know there's like new changes with the TCPA laws and stuff like that, like people that are constantly hounding you and stuff like that. So I'm going to be people are nervous, like especially in the real estate field, what that means for them and like cold calling and stuff like that, because that could essentially change different things there. But it's really funny because they talk about those texts that we get from the health insurance people. And I told them, I'm like, they're like, oh, NAR sold our information. I'm like, you're a public entity. As soon as like you became like went out, I'm like, they're ambulance chasers. I'm like, the same way that you're getting your information through cold calling, they're able to find your information through the government. like, because you are now a part of the government as a business and stuff like that. That's how it works. I'm like, there's even an article like on NAR's website saying that they're a scam, like basically. And they are a scam. They aren't a scam. Like they're legit insurance people, but it's still like they're using just aggressive techniques and everything. I've seen them say, "Oh, NAR gave me your information. Keller gave me your information." I've seen them say like, "Oh, I just found your information somewhere and saw you were a realtor." Like I have so many texts just of those different things, but I'll just send them the article that says they're a scam, and it'll usually stop the text for a
You
while.
have to have opt out. I mean, every
I
single
have one
business,
person.
anybody who sends you this stuff or whatever, even as funny as it sounds, collectors and stuff like that, like literally when you get stuff, you'll see and it'll say, put stop to opt out, text stop to opt out or whatever. And so, yeah, you can get rid of a lot of that kind of stuff. It's just anything with money, like there's so many different avenues and there's so much information and it's so, kind of complicated and complex. I think that's a lot of times why people have shame too, right? Like you said, you were 20 years old. You were like, oh my gosh, I don't know what the heck I'm doing or whatever. And it was easier just to like put up your hands and not deal with it, right? If I could tell one person piece of advice is you have to deal with it. Like no matter what it is, something, especially if it's going on a legal path, you have to deal with it because it will get dealt with, whether you want it to or not. There is no ifs about it. It's going to get handled. It's going to get dealt with.
Yeah.
And honestly, you want to be in the driver's seat of how it gets handled, whether or not you know the information. There are resources that can help you with that, right? Heck, you want to know, like, you want to get good information? I'll be happy to, or I could direct you somewhere. I have more resources than probably anybody under the sun. Lawyers, financial places, like all kinds of things, right? Like it is my wheelhouse for sure. But I just think that
that's your website. Your whole website should just be that.
A lot of programs surrounding like
research,
just being able to not only step into your own, but then also just understand how to manage certain aspects of a lot of that. Because the truth is, again, I was telling Heather before the show, for the longest, I did not speak about financials. I didn't talk about them because even though, I am an expert at mortgage, I'm not necessarily an expert on all things financial, right? Like I don't investments. I don't necessarily deal specifically with credit cards or whatever the heck else. However, I'm a nerd and I'm a researcher, and anybody who's ADHD, that we have this superpower of hyper focusing on anything we're interested in. Well, guess what? I like money. So the two things, I hyper focus on all that kind of stuff, and I just nerd out until I dig and dig and dig and dig and dig until I find the answer, because that's just how my brain works, is I just keep digging, find the answer to the thing that I wanted to know the answer to. Heather, do you have any last minute thoughts, feelings? Tell everybody where they can connect with you. We've had a great conversation, and hopefully we'll do it again soon, because there's a lot more feel like need to be told here.
Yeah. I feel like when we had our pre-conversation, I gave you like 7 ideas. I'm like, we could go this way. We could go this way. Again, it's that ADHD factor, because I'm like, do we want to talk about the mental health struggle? Do we want to talk about like poverty cycles and stuff? Do we want to talk about this? And I just kind of did the surface, like, hey, this is just kind of, like we're taught the shame at the end of the day, like, and such. But as far as reaching out to me, you can find me on Facebook, Heather Haase, HAA2A SC, or on my Instagram, but you can call me Sunshine.
Of course it is. And by the way, for those of you who do not know Heather in real life, she really is sunshine, and you can't ever see any of her posts and not have a big, huge smile on your face, because she is such a delight and such a joy. And we super appreciate you being on this episode of Financial Mastery Simplified, and we definitely hope that you will come back as a repeat guest. And for those of you listening, hopefully this episode was helpful, maybe more helpful for those of you with ADHD than anybody else. However, we definitely hope to see you back on the next episode of Financial Mastery Simplified.